On Blues Radio International, it's Jesse and Audrey transporting you to beautiful Hattiesburg, Mississippi, to sit down with our friend Vasti Jackson. How are you, Vasti?
I am absolutely wonderful, man. We have a beautiful day here in Hattiesburg. And for this time of year in Mississippi, it's generally super hot. But it's not so much today, man. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad to be sharing this moment with you all.
Well, thank you for taking us into such a beautiful setting. What are you going to start out with today musically?
Well, what am I going to start out with? I'm listening to the ancestors, Jesse. I'm going to start out with an original song entitled "The Blues Don't Discriminate." Discriminate. I said the blues don't discriminate. You might be on time, you might be late, but the blues don't discriminate. You might be gay, you might be straight, might be on time, you might be late, but the blues don't discriminate. If you really love the blues, Blues International is the right place. All you so good Christians, talk about the good things you do. I believe Christ will love everybody, me and you too. Say the blues don't discriminate. If you really love the blues, Mississippi is the right place. Yeah. And Hattiesburg, Mississippi, right now, today, is the right place. Yes, it
is. Very nice.
Is that all right?
That was wonderful.
It's more than all right. Now, you started out by asking for inspiration or guidance from the ancestors. Mm-hmm. And we talked earlier about context and culture. Can you tell us a little bit about how you get that guidance?
Well, the thing is, in my life, it's spirit, mind, body. So I'm listening for the vibration from the omniverse, not just the universe. Being born in Mississippi, where there was such a concentration of Africans. And that's why you have, the relevance of the Nile and the Mississippi River. So there's a lot of energy here. And I've been traveling internationally for more than 30 years. And of all the places I lived and I go, I have to come back to Mississippi to get recharged from the ancestors. This is not European classical music. For many people, you hear on festivals, they'll say, where our next act is. Well, my music is not an act. Nothing I do is an act. What you're hearing is an audio representation or audio extension of my culture. So I'm always have a spirit of gratitude to divine creator, to my ancestors for having the next breath, for having the next note. So even with the aspect of being a studio musician from 18 years old, I didn't know what they heard at Malaco and other places when at that age, why they would hire, the older people would hire me. But it was that thing that you can't be taught. It was a thing that you actually can't learn. It's the epigenetic memory that's in your cells that gives things a certain feel, gives it a certain rhythm, a certain human time. So unless I'm doing a musical or a play or something where I have to repeat the lines over and over, I have the basic structure, but I have to honor the ancestors first. And if they want to take a turn or deviate in mid-sentence or in the middle of the solo or the middle of the chorus of the vamp, I have to listen to them. And I have to have faith that they will bring me back home and that I won't actually, let's say, fall off the edge of the earth musically.
Well, that's quite an explanation. I want to talk a little bit about your background and your journey through the blues right after you play another song for us.
Okay. Okay, so listen, as you guys may have noticed, this is a resonator, yeah? And so I'm going to switch to some wood. Yeah, this is fun to play sometimes. And let's put this over here.
You've got a beautiful outdoor studio.
Yeah, man, this is my backyard. Yeah. And it's nice to get out here and hear the birds chirp. Yeah. And so
you got a natural chorus.
Yeah. So see what we got happening here. Another song. My God. I know a million songs. Okay, I'm gonna do one that I wrote in Macomb, Mississippi, at my mother's house, and it was recorded by the Queen of the Blues, Coco Taylor, and the name of this song is Juke, Let the Juke Joint Jump. Yeah. So I'm a little excited, y'all. So the tempos may be a little fast.
Okay.
We'll try to keep up.
Yeah.
Okay. Shuffle beats to have a good time. Let the juke joint jump. Oh, clap your hands. Jesse, I don't see you clapping your hands. Audrey, let me see you clap your hands, baby. Let the juke joint jump. We got catfish cooking in the skillet. Chitlins, they boiling in the pot. A poker game over in the corner. I said, now man, these dice is hot. Gonna let the juke joint jump. Clap your hands, shake your rump. We got a wild party bunch. We're gonna let the juke joint jump. Yeah, yeah. till the rooster crows. Gonna let the juke joint jump. Clap your hands, you can shake your rump. We got a wild party bunch. We're gonna let the juke joint jump. Oh yeah. Gonna let the juke joint jump.
Everybody's jumping. Even Audrey's cat Floyd is jumping.
Yeah, he's
Well, good. Yeah, that's on Coco Taylor's Force of Nature album, CD, on Alligator Records.
all right.
I want to go back because our audience around the world is listening to you, and I'm sure is incredibly moved already.
The whole wide, wide world?
The whole wide world. We got everybody watching. You're an important guy. And we need to know how you first got into blues.
Oh my God, I've never gotten into blues, ever. Mine, never. The blues was in me from before I was born, before the time of the pyramids. Now, from the carnal aspect of it, I come from a family of musicians, generations and generations and generations. As far as we can go back, my great-great-grandfather, Will Jackson, fiddle player, harmonica player, his son, Shane Jackson. I began to hear music in my mother's womb from my grandfather, Samuel Jackson, and my grandmother, Mary Jackson. My grandfather was short, about 5'8", very dark complexion, very dark hue. My grandmother was very tall and fair, of African and Irish descent. So the more Afrocentric thing came from my grandfather, and the more country, sort of the Irish sort of thing, the Celtic thing, came from my grandmother. So I grew up hearing this music, really from before I was born. So as a child, I was the noisemaker. I always hummed and beat on things. Drums were my first instrument, but the guitars were always around. We were poor when my grandmother and mother family moved to the Macomb, Mississippi from the country, and we lived in the projects. We did not have a car, but we had a piano in the pantry, and my uncles and my aunts, they played banjo, they played trombone, trumpet, guitar. So music has always been a friend and a companion. I never made the decision to become a musician. There was lots of musicians in the community, and by me banging on stuff and hearing other people in the community, the elders of the community began to ask my mother if I could go to play with them, in juke joints when I was about 12 years old. So, and they wanted me to play guitar because there was a great drummer in the neighborhood named Zebedee Lee. So they needed a guitar player, not, a drummer. And one of the main guys, just for a little Mississippi history, in that community, in that area, his name was Wakefield Coney, but we called him Big Moody. And of course, the icon of Macomb, Mississippi, who was born there, is Bo Diddley. Yep. So that's a family of musicians and all kinds of music. And some of my family members are performing now. My uncle, Little Freddie King in New Orleans. My grandfather taught Freddie to play guitar. Also, if you've heard of Reverend Charlie Jackson, who had a big gospel song called Jesus Got His Hooks in Me, which was recorded by Hank Williams Jr., believe it or not. So that whole gospel, blues, country music thing, for me, that's the trinity of American music. Blues, gospel, country. And I say blues first because blues is first in this thing called America, and as it extends into popular music and jazz and hip hop and bebop and trap and, rock and roll and heavy metal and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's a natural thing. I didn't learn how to read music until I was about 16 years old.
You didn't need to, as you said. It was bred into you and you were born with it.
Yeah, I've always had really good musical ears, but the thing was some of my cousins were incredible musicians, and they could read music and everything. And so when I would go to some of the rehearsals with the jazz bands and the stage band at high school, it was fascinating. And when I was going to go into my junior year, my 11th grade of high school, and I wanted to play with them, and the instructor said, Robert Vick was his name. He said, well, here, plug your guitar, and we're going to play this song. And so, he called a song, and they put all the music up, and I was standing there in front of the music stand, and I didn't know what was going on. So as they were playing, I was trying to follow it, yeah? And the chords were moving so fast, and I couldn't find the chords so quick. And he said, Jackson, unplug that guitar and don't come back in here until you can read music. In front of like maybe 18 people.
How long did that take, though, to learn to read music?
Well, let me be very honest with this. He said that, and I guess he felt that if I didn't really want to do this, that I would be shattered and just quit. But I couldn't leave because I was riding with my cousin. So after the practice was over, he said, I want you to come by my house, and I'm gonna teach you how to read music. And do you know the name of the strings of the guitar? I'm like, no. So I didn't know. So he was a flute player, but he knew enough about guitar to teach me, the name of the strings and to tell me what some of the things were that I was already playing. So the following year, he said, in order for you to be in, so I had to practice the whole summer. I didn't learn how to read music, but I learned what the chord symbols were. And so he said, in order for you to be in the jazz band, you're going to have to be in the marching band and the concert band. So since I was at first a drummer, I began to play drums. Then I began to learn rhythmic dictation and notation, and then studying music theory. And so really, I would say my summer of the 5th grade, at 15, turning 16, through high school, so my junior, senior year, and I received a percussion scholarship as a music major to Jackson State University.
What song do you find most inspires people when you play it? And could you play that song for us?
Wow, Jesse, Audrey, actually, there isn't a song for me. There isn't. Songs are medicine, and it's the right medicine for the right ailment. So depending on the audience and what the energy is, that energy will sort of guide me to what to play or to how to play it, even if it's a song that's already, let's say, on a set list. So I don't have a favorite song, or even though I'm rooted in the blues. Blues is my foundation. But when we speak about genre, my favorite music is true music. I don't, call it what you want, But so I don't know about the favorite song. You got me, man. You stumped me.
Okay, well, I'll make it easier. You put out a great album of music by Jimmy Rogers as a tribute.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. Maybe play a song from that album.
Okay. This is the way that came about. Once again, it's the Holy Spirit. It's my ancestors. And a friend of mine, his name is Britt Gully. He does an incredible Jimmy Rogers tribute. He's a tall, thin European American. Don't you like how I didn't say white guy?
That's all right.
No.
Totally fine.
I'm just having fun, y'all.
Yeah.
Because we have to smile and laugh.
Of course.
Yeah. So Brett called me and said, listen, I'm doing this play called America's Blue Yodeler. And historically, there was this guy, Hobo Bill, who Jimmy Rogers would encounter a lot, on the trains, riding the train, Hobo. He said, the only thing is, Hobo Bill didn't play guitar, he played harmonica. But, he said, do you play, he didn't know what I played. I said, do you play harmonica? I said, no. I said, it was like maybe February. And I said, well, when is the play? He said, May. I said, don't worry, I can play harmonica by May, no big deal. So, the director called me, and I said, send me whatever you have. You know what I mean? And so I bought a bunch of harmonicas. Well, at the time, I was actually in pre-production for the Bobby Rush Porcupine Meat album that won a Grammy. That was just like January of 2016 or something. Yeah. So, and we were doing that here at my house with Scott Billington. So I was doing all of this stuff with Bobby, and I'm looking at the script, and I said, well, yeah, I get to the script. I get to the script. So we finally finished the production on the Porcupine Meat record for Bobby. Then I turned my attention back to the script and the music, and then I really realized that I am not a freaking harmonica player, and so I'm practicing the harmonica. And plus, I bought some of the wrong harmonicas that they were wood or something, and they were scratching my lip, and I was trying to learn stuff so fast, I was hyperventilating, so I got on the phone. I called Bobby. I called Lee Oscar from War. I called all of, and so they gave me tips. So I got my breathing together, and I didn't become a harmonica player, but I learned all the harmonica parts that were played on the thing. So thank God for good ears. I can tinker with an instrument and pretty much learn the instrument. So in the process of listening to all of this Jimmy Rogers music, what I learned, man, was that the thing that made Jimmy Rogers unique was the African influence. Because when we think about the yodel, we think about Switzerland, we think about Austria. So they go, your lady, ooh. It's very very straight. Now, from the blues thing and the African melisma, we have your lady, ooh, lady, ooh, lady. You have the bends and the glissandos, right? So that's what made Jimmy Rogers' yodel so unique. The other thing, Jimmy would say, I'm yodeling the blues. So he was putting the European, Austrian, Swiss thing and the Irish thing sort of on top of that whole African thing and gave him that vibe. So as I'm listening to this stuff, man, I'm becoming more and more inspired. So I go like, and I'm practicing the songs that I got to sing, and I'm playing guitar on certain songs, right? So I'm digging myself. I'm digging me. You know what I mean? Working on this Jimmy Rogers song. I'm like, I got to record this stuff. So I recorded the feeling that I got from the Jimmy Rogers material, not emulating or imitating Jimmy Rogers. And so in the midst of that, I finished it in about 8 days. I sent it to Naris, and then I ran down to Brazil, then over to Europe, and so I was just kind of doing my thing, and then I started getting some congratulations about this solo Jimmy Rogers thing being nominated for a Grammy. But I didn't pay any attention, you know what I mean, because I wasn't thinking about it. It's released on my own label. There's no management. There's no PR, anything. And I didn't want to go on Facebook and say thank you. So I said, let me go I'm a member of NARA. So I go and I look, and guess what? The thing is nominated for a Grammy. Done right here at this house with the first guitar I played that I bought for $130. Another guitar I used I paid $60 for. And and I'm looking in the category, and the Bobby Rush record that I'm musical director on, is also nominated for Grammy. So I'm 2 records nominated for Grammy in the same category, traditional blues. So I'm in competition with myself, and I'm in competition with Bobby.
Uh-oh.
So they start doing the interviews, and I say, listen, man, either way, I win. If the solo Jimmy Rogers wins the Grammy, I won. If Bobby Rush, Hoochie Man wins the Grammy, I won. So the beautiful thing about that is that I've recorded with Bobby for 40 years. So, and from Sue to I Ain't Stunting You, I'm not gonna stop no show, all these things. And the newest record, what is it? Sitting on Top of the Blues. Bobby and I produced that. And once again, it's the energy. Recorded all the pre-production and some of the recording done here at my house. So now that you've got me to babble about all of this, now I'm inspired to play a Jimmy Rogers song. So thank you, Jesse. You are a genius, man. So I'm going to switch guitars. May I?
Of course.
Okay, great. Okay. And the fun that I was having with this, just so you know, Jimmy didn't really play a resonator guitar, right? It was a Martin. Yeah.
Yep.
So for my vibe, Like I said, I wasn't trying to imitate Jimmy Rogers. No. And so with all of these songs, there was one song that I felt was very, let's say, very current. The story of the song, and so maybe we can do some of that. Let's see here. Yeah, there we go. So now we're finna get into this aspect of this little weird yodel vibe, not imitating Jimmy Rogers, but the combination of the whole Austrian, Switzerland, Celtic, African thing. Standing on the corner, I didn't mean no harm. Said along came the police, they took me by the arm. Said I was up in Memphis, that's where I met Jesse, corner Bill in Maine. He said, hey, big shot, you better tell me your name. Whoa, 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 whoa. My gal says she love me, well, everybody knows. Oh, she spent $1,000 on me, a suit of new clothes. Well, she came in the joint, 44 in each hand. She said, stand aside, everybody, I'm just looking for my man. Whoa, whoa, oh, 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 oh. Standing on the corner Bill and Maine. Along came the police, took me by the hand. Said I was up in Memphis, y'all, corner Bill and Maine. Oh, he said, hey, big shot, you better tell me your name. Ha ha. I said, you'll find my name on the tail of my shirt. 'Cause I'm a Mississippi hustler, I don't have to work. That's why I'm standing on the corner.
That's incredible.
Tough, the yodeling part.
Yeah, it is tough.
Yeah, that's a vocal workout.
Well, the interesting thing about that, so I'm just, because we're in my backyard, I'm at home, I'm a little more relaxed than when we first started.
Yeah.
This guitar is actually tuned in open A, right? So for all the guitar players out there, it's the fifth is on the bottom, then the tonic, right? So normally if I was going to do that song, I would do it in D. So it's a whole step up for me vocally. And this guitar is in standard tuning, also in E. So I have to be, I'm not going to pretend to be just like 100% all the time. So I'm like, oh, don't forget that this is not in standard tuning.
How often do you practice? I'm curious, like what that's like for you. Because I know you use you wait for the call of the ancestors to tell you like what you're going to play and things like that.
Well, they never call and say practice.
Well, that's what I mean. So that's sort of like a self-discipline. So you've got to kind of make yourself do that, and with their guidance, I assume.
Yeah,
so,
but
how's that work for you?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, for the teenagers that may be watching this, or the youth that may be watching this. You guys should practice much more than I practice. Okay. Now, when I was a kid, I enjoyed playing. I still enjoy playing. So maybe I play the guitar, something I don't call it practice, but I spent hours and hours practicing, because I was learning, and I'm still learning, but I was transcribing stuff, writing music, transcribing stuff from Miles Davis, from other people outside of, the blues thing. And so I practiced 4 or 5 hours a day. I would get home from at school at 3, and then I would practice till about 5 or 6, do homework, eat supper, and then I would practice till I fell asleep, or till my mother would take the guitar from me, or I would fall asleep with it. So what happens over time, I think, for many musicians, is that you practice mentally.
Okay, yeah.
And not as much as you practice physically, even though we need to practice and play physically because of dexterity and muscle memory. But it gets to a point, I say this, and I think this is true with a lot of people anyway, but I can hear music and see music.
That's what I was going to ask you. If it was all in your mind, you just close your eyes and it's there.
Right. So a lot of times, if I'm driving, let's say from here to New Orleans, about a 2-hour drive, I'm driving and practicing. Okay. Because when I hear it, I can actually see what the fingers are doing. Okay. So I hear, that's a major 7 chord, that's a chromatic thing, and the rhythm is blocked, so forth and so on. So to me, that's practicing as well. So I'm going to be honest with you. I do not practice physically as much as I should. But this is no excuse. But what happens is, over time, you begin to see or hear the part for the song before you play it.
I understand. So yeah.
You don't have to try to figure it out as much on the physical instrument. So if I'm listening to something before I pick up the instrument, I hear something that's not there, or that might would work. And because of just so much time I've spent on the physical terrain of the guitar, I know where that is.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it's just muscle memory at that point where you feel it.
It's a lot of muscle memory, and what has happened over time. And this, Jesse and Audrey, this is kind of going back because we don't have as much of this now as we had in the past. I'm 60 now. I was born in 59. So when I started doing recording sessions at Malaco, what happened in the studios at that time, everybody was in the same room. Yeah. So playing at the same time. So you had to be able to listen to the other person, or as you were listening to the song before you picked up the instrument, hear something that really fit well. The thing that was important is that you came up with what they later called was the money part.
Okay.
So as opposed to playing a bunch of stuff, and the producers don't want to hear you trying to figure out what to play.
No.
They don't.
They don't want to spend that time, yeah.
People banging on instruments. So either you got the instrument, the volume turned off, and you're figuring something out, or you're thinking in your head, or you're humming something. So, and the thing that became very important is to have a good, super good memory. So if you remember, you listen to the song once, if you wrote your notes down, almost all the major producers, by the third take, if they're, they want a master line. First, second, third. So if you say, oh, that's good for the chorus, that's good for the verse, and this is good for the vamp, then you need to be able to remember that, because at that time, the sessions were 3 hours, the average session, and they wanted 15 minutes of music, or basically 3 songs. And that's walking in cold. There is no rehearsal. So, and so those kind of things, have helped me tremendously. I mean, working with Bobby Bland and ZZ Hill, and recording with B.B. King and Wynton Marsalis and, Henry Butler and Dr. John and Cyril Neville. And so all of this stuff that I do is not blues in the sense of 1-4-5 and a shuffle. And even, the Malaco stuff was blues, but that was soul music, Southern soul music. Yeah, which is which is like, I worked for Malaco starting at 18, and then at 29 I started working for Alligator. So doing Katie Webster, Coco Taylor, Michael Burks, C.J. Chenier as assistant producer, arranger, and so I kind of got both ends of the spectrum. But the thing that that helped me, of course, going to Jackson State and learning how to write for horns and strings, which is outside of what we think about the blues thing. But, and let me say this too, I know I'm kind of taking a left turn here, but whoever's watching this, no, I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke cigarettes, and I don't do drugs. You know what I mean? So life is high enough for me in music, other than well, no, music is the number one high.
Sure it is.
I think Haagen-Dazs falls second and maybe sex third. I don't know.
Hey, they're all kind of related.
Yeah,
they're all sensory things. So yeah, and I'm curious because you mentioned all of these blues fusions with other styles of music, and it's something that I've experienced many times. We have classic blues, which is beautiful music on its own, and then there's all of these fusions with the yodeling and everything like that. Would you consider that to be more of an evolution than a fusion at this point, with the massive amount of it that there is these days?
Well, I mean, originally it was definitely an evolution. I mean, are people sometimes making a conscious choice to infuse something? Yes, they are. But, being here in Mississippi, being born here, and I can tell you specifically about the culture of this, and it wasn't an infusion.
Okay.
Because of the neighborhood I grew up in. And because, when I say these things, understand that all the things that I speak are out of love.
Yes.
They're not angry. I'm not upset. I can't change what got us here. You know what I mean? Whether it's from the indigenous people or what they call it, Native Americans. I live in Mississippi. The name of this is an Indian name. You know what I mean?
Yes, it
is.
is.
Look at Chattawa. You look at Philadelphia. You look at Biloxi. You look at Chickasaw. You look at Choctaw. You know all of these names. Itabena. You know what I mean? All of this stuff. So when we look at the culture that creates the vibration that's sonic.
Yeah.
Then that's just a natural evolution. It's not that people are trying to infuse it. You're born into it. My ancestry, I'm African, I'm Irish, I'm Hebrew, and I'm Native American. I know my European American or my Irish, what you would call white cousins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm from Mississippi. I live in Mississippi. Believe me, when you look at my family portrait, you see a hue of colors from here to there. And guess what? We all love each other. There's no bias, there's no prejudice, there's no colorism. Africans weren't permitted to speak their language or play their music. And so the drum, it was illegal and punishable by death for an African in this country to play the drum, because they knew that it was like what? Our modern day what? Cell phone, right? They were communicating.
Yeah.
So when you look at the aspect of the religion, their religion was taken away. They couldn't speak their language. This foreign language was forced upon them, right? They couldn't play their songs. They had to learn these church hymns. So when they were singing the church hymn and someone would do a vocal phrasing that was from some place in some village in West Africa, someone else from that tribe recognized it. Well, the slave master or the overseer didn't know it. You know what I mean? That's why blues and jazz, from an organic standpoint, is survival music. The greatest aspect of the blues is change and is subtle improvisation. So when you look at James Newton and Amazing Grace, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. It's very straight, it's very reverent, it's very stoic. So when the Africans were forced to sing this stuff, they, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Now,
It's beautiful.
crossing bar lines. You have all of this melisma, but what you're hearing is sonic culture. You're hearing people speak that which they cannot speak plainly. And you have that same thing with Robert Johnson. You have the same thing with Lightning Hopkins. You understand? You have the same thing in ebonics. You have the same thing in hip hop, and you have the same thing in bebop. You know what I mean? So when you say mom and them, where my mom and them? Where is my mother and the others? You understand? So when we take a look at some of these things were necessary for survival, especially from the African Americans or black or whatever you want to call, right? It was necessary for our survival. So, and time, you know what I mean? Rhythmic time, phrasing, you know what I mean? Is very different in Europe and Africa. Colder climates, molecules what? Constrict.
Yes, they do.
Right? How did the temperature things expand? Water boils. Right. So when you look at that sonically, the more things, how do they get? They stretch. Time stretches. So time, human time in Africa is very different from human time in Europe. The shuffle is wider. You have, you know, the waltz. 1, 2, 3, la bum bum ba, bo do beta bo bo bo, bo do bo de bum 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 bum. John Philip Sousa, so forth. You have that from an African standpoint. It's much more organic. In Africa, it's not so much the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Their standard is more the heartbeat. Tuku, 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 tuku. Right. So what you have is the triplet from Europe, 1, 2, 3, Europe, very straight. Africa, heartbeat. So that, the heartbeat of that rhythm, what we call the shuffle, is the human heartbeat. Now that's very organic.
That is beautiful.
The human heartbeat is not ta 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 ta. That's a little more militaristic. You know what I mean? And so when you look at European classical music, which is for the elite. Now, even the roots of that music is for what? Common folk and the peasants, right? But many of those composers, they were geniuses. I mean, Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, Schumann, Liszt, all of them. They would take those motifs from the folk people and then they would write them for violins, violas, flutes, oboes, bassoons, right? It would make them majestic. And who were they for? The elite, the kings, the queens, the duchesses, you know what I mean? And the barons, the landowners and things of that nature. So guess what? The folks, they couldn't go to the what? The theater, right?
No.
They couldn't go to La Scala. But in all of that, you have the root element that was very what? Organic, and that was an evolution. But then you had the composers who were writing for the court who did what? Infusion.
That's right.
And we have that right here in America when you look at the organic aspect of the blues, whether you're talking about, I don't know, Jack Owens, Robert Johnson, you know what I mean? Any of these people, Son House. And then you look at the organic nature of that, and then you listen to Pat Boone do Tutti Frutti. Well, that's an attempt at infusion. But from Son House to Robert Johnson to B.B. King is evolution.
Okay. It's a beautiful explanation, and it's obvious why you work with so many amazing, talented people, because your explanations, they're cyclical, and you cover a lot of ground, which is very helpful, because you've educated me and Jesse, things that I didn't know about blues music this morning, I know now. And, I appreciate that very much as somebody who's constantly trying to learn about things and would never claim to be an expert on anything. I think that it's very beautiful that you've taken the time to explain these very important facts to us. and things I don't think a lot of blues fans understand or know themselves. And to improperly use the word like evolution and fusion, I personally won't do that again,
No,
because
I
your
mean,
explanation was so right on that I feel like what I thought 5 minutes ago was wrong.
well,
And
no.
I appreciate it. I really, that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that I think it's beautiful what you just said.
Okay, yeah, yeah, but no, you're not wrong at all. I mean, the aspect of your description based upon your experience, and all I've said was that some of it is infusion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of it is evolution. You know what I mean? So you're not wrong.
Okay. But I
No.
just wanted to make sure that, because I'm very curious, and you work with all of these like epic people, and you're an epic person yourself. And I'm just curious. You were talking about majesty just a moment ago. If there was any way that you could play something for the kings and queens in our audience.
Wow. Why did I accept you guys' invitation to do this?
Because we're funny people.
Okay. Wow. Majesty for the kings and queens. Oh, wow.
Well, you said majesty, and I figured we have a lot of kings and
I
queens
did
in
say
our
majesty.
audience. So
Okay, let me switch guitars. Vasti.
as long as you feel good about it, that's all I care about.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, let's see here. I guess we have to go back to the ancestors again.
Yes, please.
Let's see. I'm outside, so with the humidity, it's still pleasant.
The birds have stopped
Yeah.
chirping. We need to summon them back.
Yeah. So I don't know about majesty, but in terms of survival, right? In terms of the aspect of we improvise to survive. That is the root element of the blues, regardless of what they say. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So aspect of tradition, the greatest tradition of the blues, and I know some of the blues police,
Uh-oh.
you know what I mean, are going to be pissed at this, is to change. That is the oldest tradition in the blues. You know what I mean? I could care less whether people learn a B.B. King solo or not. Learn it if you need to learn it, if you, for the aspect of a tool. You know what I mean? But there are too many people who are trying to imitate what they think is a blues sound. And they like the blues and they don't like blues people. They don't like blues culture. And you can tell in their playing. Because I tell people all the time, if you really want to learn how to play the blues, please go and hang around blues people who are not musicians. Get around people.
That's great advice.
Watch how they walk, how they talk in the neighborhood, and you will learn more about the blues from that than you will learning a Robert Johnson song. Okay. Now, having just said that.
I love the way you put things. Your phrasing
Out of
is.
love. I said that out of love. Now I said it out of love.
No, trust me. I hope you can tell by my tone that I am very genuine in telling you that we've talked to a lot of people, and your explanations of things are very well put together. So thank you so much for coming on with us.
All right, thank you. So here's a little majesty, because Mississippi, where the streets they weren't so pretty, but I love my home. It's the place I was born. Whenever I get a chance, y'all, you know I got to go back home. Another man is gone. Another man left home. Oh, another man is gone. Oh, another man left home. No matter where I roam, you know I sing a blue song. No matter where I roam, I got to get back home.
Incredible.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
Hey,
It's
Vasti
never happened
Jackson.
before, and it will never happen again.
Oh.
Well, it was a moment in time, and we're glad we captured it and could share it with the world. Vasti Jackson, thank you for joining us from Hattiesburg, Mississippi today. It's been a beautiful experience for us. Thank you for taking us into nature, for explaining so much about where all this beautiful music intersects.
Well, listen, thank you all for having me. And you all do wonderful work and wonderful things. I appreciate what you do. And Jesse, you know, we first met in Memphis and we talked about doing this. Yeah. So I'm very, very glad that it has come around for us to do this. Now, I want to say this, excuse me, because I want to keep this as real and as organic as possible. Yeah.
Please do.
And when people see this, I don't want them to think, that it's something that's contrived, you know what I mean? Or it's trying to present something that's, I don't know, an act. So, just to keep this in here too. I don't mind you even keeping me asking you to keep this in here.
Oh, no. I'll trust me,
So-
I got you.
Listen, guys, I've been off work since, I think about February. So we're probably going to do something. I'm going to sell some guitars. I'm going to do some things. So whatever they're doing now, I have not done that thing, what you call it, the digital tip jar thing.
Yeah.
I haven't done that. And because I didn't really feel a need to do it. You know what I mean? It's a good thing for people to do that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Where they need it. So praise God. And I'd rather, people make the first move or the people who are most in need. Yeah. So I want to say to all the blues lovers and blues fans and roots music lovers, please, if the artist is selling the physical CD from their site on Facebook, please buy that because we get virtually no money from streaming. Zero. I mean, it's so minuscule, it won't pay the light bill. Yeah. So I'll be going on, whatever, my Facebook page and things. I'm at home, so I got plenty of time. If anybody wants an autographed CD, you want to buy a guitar, no, I'm not doing a GoFundMe page. I'm old school. My mama, my daddy, they all told me to get your ass out and work. You take what you got to get what you need. So I don't need nobody to donate nothing to me. As long as I have something to sell, to lease, to rent, let's do righteous, good, loving business. So this pandemic will be over, and now I'm going to sell a little bit of Vasti Jackson if you want.
I was going to ask, where can people find your albums?
Well, they can find it on my website, vastijackson.com. Yeah. And you guys can list that up there. But also, if you want, a guitar, or CDs autographed by a multi-Grammy nominated producer, artist, writer. Come on, buy some Vasti Jackson stuff. I'm not going to ask you. I don't know some of this stuff because I'm busy. But I'm not going to ask you to go fund my next album. You understand? And if I'm doing, and I got plenty of material recorded. So I just want people to know, if you see a sign that says, "Hey, look here, I'm getting ready to release my album. Do you want a part of it?" What I'm going to be asking you for is an investment, meaning that you want to invest some money. Okay, then you got 3%. You got 5%. You got 10%. Because I don't want nobody to give me nothing. I get it by myself. No.
There you go.
Well,
Oh, that
it's
smile. Oh,
it's very admirable, and we need
yeah.
to support musicians, and
Yes.
especially great musicians and producers like you who've given us so much.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us today, Vasti. And we're going to do this in person when we're through this
Oh, yeah.
pandemic mess.
So
We're
good.
gonna do it in person, and next time I'm gonna grab some electric guitars.
Oh, you're gonna plug in? Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
Don't
yeah, we
say
gotta-
that. Oh
we
no!
We're gonna have to, we'll have to come back. We'll have to come back to your backyard soon then.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're gonna
listen,
plug
and
in?
everybody stay safe in this pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love you guys, and all of the musicians and the fans out there. Listen, let's just send good vibes to everybody. Let's support each other, and for those who are truly in the most need, let's be willing to help those who are truly in need. I love you guys. God bless. Thank you again, Blues International.
Oh, thank
Love
you so much,
Vasti.
Vasti.
Thank you.
You've been
Take-
so fun. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.
Whoa, oh, 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 oh.